everyone, I'm Tara Jones from Peaceful Solutions, and I'm here back again with little Miss Valencia. I wanted to show you all the progress we've made since the last video that I filmed for all of you. And I had just gotten on Valencia's back and started just a little bit of movement, asking her to walk gently around the round pen. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised to see that about 4 or 5 days later, we're actually trotting. And at the end of this video, I'll show you how we go out on our first trail ride. Right here, we're warming up with the Super S, just to ask her to adduct her hindquarters. Make sure that she's moving her hindquarters laterally, cervically flexing, and backing up. I always like to warm up the horses with this to make sure that they are focused and ready, and understanding of forward movement, as well as flexion, giving, softness, and asking them to move their feet in different directions. I'm always going to go ahead and tighten up my saddle, and at this point, I've gone through the mounting process numerous times, so I'm okay to just hop on Valencia and begin walking. Now you'll see I've advanced to carrying a dressage whip. She's learned a little bit about forward movement. She is super responsive to really light leg cues, and you'll see that she's just getting accustomed to the bit. So as I warm her up, I'm just asking her to walk. I do go between asking her for some contact and connection, of course very lightly, and then you'll see me switch to one hand and asking her on each side to bend and flex. At this point, I just want her to walk nice and gently, and here you'll see me starting to bend and ask her to walk and follow her nose. Just the very simplest of maneuvers to get her to start to change direction. One of the things I really love about Valencia is she pleasantly surprised me. She's actually really forward under saddle, and once I got her moving, the trot is amazing. So you'll see here I have maybe 1 pound of pressure on each side. So I'm just going to pick up the rein, take the slack out, look for her to step out with her shoulder. So her right front foot will be stepping out towards 1 o'clock. I'm going to go to the middle of the rein, pick up the left rein, and then ask for her left front foot to step out towards 11. So this is in preparation to get good shoulder control and to help her to change direction slightly. Of course, 1 and 11 are still forward moving exercises and forward moving steps, and 12 o'clock being obviously a straight step and a forward step. So I'll stay between the 3 numbers for the beginning phases of her training, and then as she moves on, she'll start to step to 2 and 10 and 3 and 9. So here I'm going to go ahead and go right to it. We've been trotting for the last few days. You can see that I just went ahead, added a little bit of pressure with both calves, tapped with the stick, and she very happily went forward. I like to make sure that she stops and is responsive to both reins for a whoa. Transitions are very important, but I don't get too picky at this stage. So I ask her to trot around the round pen as a nice little warm-up. You'll see that my lower leg does not stay on. I ask her to go forward, to change her leg speed, and then immediately go to cruise control with both legs. This is very important with all of my horses, as when you pick up the rein, the horse in the very beginning has to understand that contact and connection have to go hand in hand with forward movement. Oftentimes when we first pick up the rein, the horse tends to slow down their feet, which is perfectly fine. So as Valencia's education begins to grow, she'll learn to put these two things together. So right now I sometimes get a lot more go than whoa, and sometimes I get a lot more whoa than go. And that's perfectly understandable as she learns. You'll see that I'll switch back and forth from having a long, loose rein here and working on one side and the other to picking up both reins and taking up a little contact. I like to change direction, make sure that she's moving, make sure that she understands when I pick up the rein, she's to follow the direction of the pressure. So here I'm going to go ahead and pick up both reins, ask her to trot on a little bit, and she very happily side. There I asked her for a little bit of a whoa or transition down. So in the beginning, I'll start to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down. I change it a lot just so the horse can start to understand and have a feel for what it is that I'm looking for. There really isn't any rhyme or reason of why I do certain things when I train. It's just kind of how I feel at the moment, how the horse feels. She's pleasantly surprised me here. This is the first time I put the barrel in the middle of the round pen just for something different. And she is really moving forward, stepping up and under her body really nicely. She's already starting to move off my seat. I'm giving her very subtle cues here, and I just have slight contact on both reins where I'm bridging the rein and essentially picking up on the inside rein to ask her to step out with her shoulder towards one and to keep trotting around the barrel. I don't remember having to ask more than once for her to move forward. Right there was probably the first time that I had to remind her to keep going. She usually very happily keeps the forward movement, which is a blessing. I love when horses are like this. I've actually really enjoyed riding her. It's hard to get me off of her when I actually do get on her. So it's been a long time since I've had that, and that forward movement and that kind of busy movement that she has with the level head and the mind is really awesome. And you'll see in the background, Keith and Stryker went out on a trail ride and they're coming back. Valencia kind of looks at them, but just happily keeps on working. So here we just go into the trot. I'm asking her for a walk. And then I trot about 10 steps. Ask her to come down to a walk and repeat 10 steps of the walk and then back up to the trot for 10 steps. This is an exercise that I like to do with some of the horses, especially the young ones, because it just ensures that I'm getting my transition when and where asked. Really good, Valencia. I really like the way that she floats up and down into the transition. Really, honestly, we have not had a lot of ride time. I've ridden her about 4 times prior to this video, and she has just picked up on things so quickly. It's amazing. So here we are, just kind of circling around, picking up the trot, speeding up, slowing down, changing direction, doing all of the things that are going to prep her to start working at a little bit of a higher level. Originally, I had thought that it would be really difficult for me to get Valencia to canter because on the ground, she doesn't really voluntarily give me the canter. She'll trot all day long and she'll actually speed up the trot really easily, but going for the canter is a little bit different. So later on, in a few minutes, I go ahead and think right in the middle of this ride that I think I want to go for the canter. Usually when I come out and I start working the horse, I go by feel. So if it didn't feel like Valencia was ready to do it, then obviously I would wait. But as I started working through the different maneuvers that I was doing, you can see here that she's really starting to be really responsive to me just opening up that rein slightly. And you can see she's really balanced, prepped, and ready. So I love how we're kind of changing direction here, moving around. She just kind of keeps that speed going forward. She's really just a handy little horse. And there again, you'll see us going around the barrel, speeding up, changing direction. I keep a little contact and feel. And here's where I have the idea that, you know what, I think I'm going to go ahead and ask for a few steps, or try to ask for a few steps of canter. So I'm just going to start by right there. You see me going ahead and I'm adding both legs. I go ahead and tap with the stick and she sped up. So I'm going to take that as she changed her leg movement. So that was a thought in the right direction. Here again, I ask her to speed up. I knew I wasn't going to get the canter, but here you'll see me slow her down. And then when I come back around to right about this spot, I'm going to keep asking right there if she'll voluntarily give me the canter. Now when I'm in the round pen the first few times, I'm going to go through this routine until I can get it. That way the horse kind of knows, right here we speed up. And there I think I might have got one little thought where she thought of picking up the canter, so that's excellent. We're gonna come around again. I'm gonna speed her up in that spot. Right there was a thought of it. Right there was a little tiny pickup of the canter. We're gonna come back down a little bit slower. And you'll see sometimes you kind of have to Hail Mary your riding a little bit and just go for it. Sometimes when I'm asking a horse to canter, that's a little tough. And there you'll see I kind of just spun around, patted her, and told her, just go ahead, you're doing fine. Because sometimes you're going to ignite the go forward button. So you lose a little bit of your whoa. So a little bit of the riding kind of goes out the window, but it's okay at this stage because remember, your go, your whoa are separate. So teaching them to move off your leg, sometimes you're going to lose a little bit of the whoa. That's why I always do this in the round pen first if I can get it. That way I'm always in a circle where I can keep the horse under control if they decide to run through my bridle. This is all part of the education there. That was so good, Valencia. So here you'll see me give her a big pat, bring her down to a walk, and here you can see she's kind of fizzy. She wants to go forward. So I'm just going to bring her back to the center here. We're just going to trot around. I'm giving her big pats, lots of love, telling her wonderful job. I don't have any leg on her at this moment. I'm going to ask her to come around again, and you'll see us coming around here, and there was the canter. So even though that was just a few steps, that was awesome. And then sometimes just the thought of the forward movement, the thought of going forward, that's usually your hardest part is when you're asking for that canter because a lot of times horses stick their feet, they'll end up bucking. And I always like to make sure that when I'm ready to canter, that I firmly believe in my mind that I'm not going to have a bad result from that canter. Good, there she goes. And you'll see I really kind of have to egg her on. Sometimes it's not pretty in the way that I'm riding. But again, I have to do what's right for her. I have to really, really help her along and let her know that she's heading in the right direction. I try to stay as balanced as I possibly can to help her to understand what I'm expecting of her. So here I'm going to kind of rein her in just a little bit, have her come back to me, just do a little bit of trotting. And right here is where I got the idea to shout over to Heath. He was on one of my best horses, and I asked him if he would go ahead and lead us out on a trail ride. I just felt like Valencia was ready, and it was the right time to do so. So what you will see now is here we are, and we're heading out on trail. Now, one of the things that I do is I always put the most broke horse that I have in front of me. And I always tell the rider that they need to just keep walking. The horse is going to set the example. So if you have a crazy, spooky horse in front of you, then the horse and the young, uneducated horse that you're sitting on is almost going to follow suit with what is in front of them. So just make sure that you're following a really, really good horse. If I have one that's a little bit iffy, I'll sometimes hand walk them out into my wood area and I'll mount them in the woods. That way, when you go through a wooded area and it's almost like a funnel and it keeps you in kind of like a hallway, it's a little bit safer than what we're doing at this point here, which is walking out to an open field. I felt like Valencia was ready. I felt like she was going to be fine. This is actually where I turn her out. I walk her back and forth here a lot. And so I felt like she was going to be absolutely okay to just follow Striker out to the woods and just take a quick loop around. Now the first trail ride, I'll just take them out, not expect much from them, try to give them as much loose rein as I can, and I'm going to just keep just a little bit of contact with them so they know where I'm at. I want this to be a good experience, and I want them to feel comfortable. So as you can see, we're starting to get into the area where I have the pasture on the right, the woods on the left. So this becomes a better area for Valencia to just kind of funnel right on through there and go right out into the woods. So as you can see, this was a spectacular day. I am really so proud of her accomplishment, where she's coming, and how great she is doing. She really is a cool mare, and I really look forward to the many, many more sessions that we have ahead of us where I can really teach her. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for everything, guys.